Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Anime Month, right here on Reaction and Review UK. As you saw in the previous video, which explains all the details, we don't need to go over that again. And just for pointless reference, I've kind of let my hair grow out a little bit. So, not exactly invoking, a Saiyan, DBZ, or a Final Fantasy protagonist. More along the lines of, get a haircut, you damn hippie. So, just to show you guys, I've tried to make the effort with Anime Month, because this is for you, the fans. You want an Anime Month? I'm happy to provide. So in terms of Anime Month, where are we going to start? Well, I figured it'd be best to start off with what you know, and then delve into unfamiliar territory. It's like, it's like swimming in the shallow end and then going into the deep end. Well, seeing how my favourite two series are either Slayers or Azumanga Daioh, I'd start with that. So, today, beginning Anime Month, we have Slayers Evolution R. Now, you've probably seen the podcast I did with Darkscream217, which I'll probably find a link if I ask it nicely. I am a fan of Slayers. It's a very funny series. It kind of balances the quirkiness with the serious stuff, which is kind of what Excel Saga didn't do. Just saying. But I'm more of a fan of the OVA series, because there's the TV series, which is stuff like Slayers, Slayers Next, Slayers Try, and this sort of thing. And there's the OVA series, which has Lina and Nagha, which is this really funny, odd couple, good cop, bad cop kind of scenario, and I just love the shit out of that. Plus the theme musics for each of the OVA movies, really nice. Just saying, I like world music, I love anything. If it's not British or pop, I'll listen to it. More or less. Now, I haven't really watched Evolution R. I sat through Revolution. I felt it was okay, it was good to see them back, but you felt they really had nothing exciting to do. But let's see if Evolution R can change that. With that in mind, everybody, well, I don't have any ramen, so whatever. Grab yourself a drink. It's time to kick back, relax, and let's check out Slayers Evolution R. No, you're Amy Rose. I'm sorry, you're Amy. You are nowhere near Symphonia's vocabulary awesomeness. So, stop trying.
The legendary sorcerer finally met his end.
Okay, I know all this. Like, I watched the first 3 series of Slayers. I know all this shit. Stop taking the Capcom road of explaining shit to your confused new audience. You know what I'm talking about. In RE5, those loading screens, History of Resident Evil, I know all this shit. I've been playing these games for a while. I've been watching this series forever, I'm not stupid, guys. I know this shit. Yeah, sure. Whatever you say.
Well, her voice is exactly the same, but the way she talks is completely different. Is that all?
Oh, goody. Naga's here now. Not the way I wanted her to be in the TV series and interacting with the other characters, but hey, she's there, so glass half full, I suppose.
From what you've told us.
So, that was Slayers Evolution R. Let's just put a stop to that. So we're going to answer the big question first. Is this really good? Is it worth watching based off one episode? I'm pretty sure the whole series is a different story, but on this one episode alone, is this any good? As Mephiles put it, the answer is yes and no. First of all, I want to say that Slayers has never looked better. Because the older Slayers had a very sort of dimly lit palette, the color schemes and textures they used were pretty basic. It reminded me a lot of Dragon Ball GT's coloring system. But Slayers is really colorful now, and the modern kind of anime look really suits the series. I mean, I remember Slayers Next, which is my favorite series altogether, had very sort of dim colors and that, like I said, that 90s kind of palette, but seeing Lina and all the other characters with these bright colors and more cute textures, it works, it's just, normally I hate that kind of look for anime, which is why I usually cringe when I watch the more recent Dragon Ball movies, because the characters just don't look right in that art style. I'm just saying, that's just how I feel about it. Or how the Azumanga Daioh characters look strange in that mini-movie, when they were drawn in more recent sort of, stylings. Pretty bizarre. But I will say, seeing them like this, it's like, yeah, I like this, and I might check out the rest of this later on. As far as voice work, we'll get into the voice work in a bit, but in terms of the good voice acting, Veronica Taylor is still amazing, because Veronica was, I think, the second VA for Amelia in the TV series. And even though she's kind of using, it sounds like Ash's mom, but younger, I love hearing Veronica Taylor's voice. She's one of my favourite VAs, and she just nails Amelia once again. Although, arguably, I think the best voice actor in the whole episode was Crispin Freeman as Zell, because Crispin Freeman's one of those voice actors that his voice doesn't really change that much. It's kind of like Kevin Conroy when he plays Batman, because you could recognize Crispin Freeman's voice in any show you watch, because it never really changes. I mean, I think I've seen him in things like Ghost in the Shell, Slayers. I did see him when I was watching Haruhi. It is the same voice every single time, but that's not a bad thing, because his voice just suits any situation. And I always said that he'd probably make a good Knuckles the Echidna as well, but that's for another subject, or maybe Shadow. But yeah, and I absolutely love the Lina and Nagha banter, because the banter between Lina and Nagha, if you've never seen the OVA series, they're just like an old married couple, just bickering and bitching, and I fucking loved it, because the shit those two get up to is fucking hilarious. And the problem that the TV series had was, it never quite had that Lina Nagha sort of connection. They had, sure, it was Gowry, but Gowry can't hold a candle to Nagha at all. Because I don't think he's that funny. I mean, he's just a token, like, idiot character. Then again, all the characters themselves are kind of spoofs and tropes of, RPG type characters, but yeah, I prefer Nagha over Gowry. Now we're going to get into the cons. Normally, every Slayer's opening and the OVA movies have a kick-ass theme song, usually sung by the VA who plays Lina. But this one in particular, I wasn't feeling. I mean, the ending song's a lot better, but this opening song was pretty weak. And the intro animation, because Slayer's openings are really sort of alive and full of energy, but this one was pretty slow, pretty bland, and very forgettable. It's kind of what I fear about Slayer's, like, it's still watchable. I mean, there's a couple of good jokes in this one, but you feel the formula is starting to wear thin now. That being said, Lisa Ortiz is still a terrible Lina inverse. As far as I'm concerned, Cynthia Martinez all the way. I mean, she sold that role. And whenever I hear Lisa Ortiz now, all I hear is Amy Rose. And that kind of soils it for me, because Sonic X sucked. Yeah. Also, having said that, Eric Stuart, I still like him. He's a good VA, but his voice is not aging well. I can still hear, like, the Brock Gowry voice in there, but it's a little more scratchy now. Maybe he's been smoking, or he's just getting older, That's just... Yeah, and speaking of voice acting, they kind of, like, throw in some of the 4Kids VAs in the background. They're background roles, so it's not a big deal, and I say 4Kids because I don't know these people's names. I just recognize their voices from 4Kids Productions. I think 4Kids are dead now. It's just you recognize those voices and you go, ugh, I don't like that, no. Having said that, there was some talent at 4Kids. They were just poorly directed. Here you can see they are trying, but it's not the same. An exception I take with Slayers is they're taking the Capcom route, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. One of the nitpicks I had with Resident Evil 5 was, during the loading screens, they would remind you of Resident Evil history that you didn't need to know, because if you've been playing the series, you already know this shit. And they had a game previously called The Umbrella Chronicles that explained all this shit to you, and they keep beating you over the head with the history. And half of this episode of watching it was just shit I already knew from the TV series, talking about Xanathar, Reza the Red Priest, Shabranikto. It's like, I know all this shit. I get you're trying to educate your new viewers that may have started watching with Revolution, but for a long-time fan like me, and you're telling me this shit, it does feel like you're insulting my intelligence a little bit. It's like, just because I haven't watched Slayers in a while, I haven't forgotten about it. Rezo, Shabranikto, I know all this shit. Reintroducing Nagha into the TV series, because Nagha was never really in this universe, because there was the OVA series and the TV series, and that character never quite crossed it. She did have a cameo in Premium, which I think is a pretty lackluster but really funny movie in that regard. But now that they finally have the character with the TV series cast, but not the way I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be, the character as she is, not just this bland talking suit of armor thing, which reminds me of Full Metal Alchemist in some way. Yeah, I did watch that with Lily Livers, so yay. So I know all about that. So it kind of let me down, like, oh, I'm just, just disappointed. Like, you finally get something that you've been asking for, and it's not quite what you wanted, so that's just life, really, isn't it? And I hate to say this, but the Slayers formula, it's not aging well. Because now that I watched this, a problem I had with Slayers, and it was a good time when it ended, with Try, a problem I had was a typical Slayers episode, or a typical Slayers, like, OVA movie, usually has this formula. Scene sets up, they're either doing something, it's either eating, reading, talking, they're doing something happens, they go on a little adventure, they talk a little bit, they fight, have some really funny banter, and it ends with Lina casting her dragon slave, a place is destroyed, end. Seeing it now, it's like, this is getting old, because you know it, beat for beat, note for note, and there was nothing surprising about it. Which is really a shame, because when it ended with Try, it was like, okay, it's a good time to end it. I'd seen everything it could throw at me, and I remember watching for Revolution R, it just, it didn't feel like it was their A-game. You didn't really feel like they were trying. And that's sadly how I felt watching this first episode. I'm going to watch the rest of the series later on, because I needed to go and see it anyway. But it just doesn't feel like the A-game, if that makes any sense to you. But if you are curious, go and check it out. I would say, though, if given the choice of this and the earlier stuff, especially the OVA movies, I highly recommend the OVA movies because they are fucking hilarious. They're a little bit dated now, but take your chances, see what you like. Personally, I wouldn't start here. Don't make this the first Slayers thing you ever see, because you might not enjoy it. Go back and watch the earlier stuff, like Slayers, Next, Try, or the OVA movies. That's all you can really say about it. So, now we're sailing straight into unfamiliar territory with our next choice, which comes in as a request from Kari Okami. But that's next time. Until next time, everybody, I have been Random, take care, and I'll see you all in the near future. Peace. Flare arrow? Woo! The champ is an arrow! The Ninja Boy is now an arrow! Woo! The Freedom Man! Oh, not that flare. Oh, sorry, my wrestling reflex just kicked in there.